Hey everybody. So we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. I'm going to try our hand here at doing a Whitetail Euro Mount, or a Euro Mount of a whitetail skull. I've done quite a few of these in the past, just never made a video on it before. If you're familiar with doing this at all, one of the things that people like to do is the hydro dipping process after they get the skull cleaned, and I've done quite a few of those in the past, but I've never done one using the cream developer before to actually just end up with a pure white skull at the end. Like I said, this is probably going on like, I don't know, the fifth or sixth one of these that I've done before. Quite a few of them turned out pretty nice. I'll throw some pictures in there, or in the video here of past projects. Like I said, this one's going to be a little bit different for me just because I've never done one with the cream developer before. But yeah, I just have a couple of old small buck skulls yet out in the woodshed that they've been sitting out there for probably going on 5 years now, and I figured it's just time to do something with them. So that's what we're going to do today. So I got one of my old Coleman stoves here, an old stock pot, and then my developer. We're not going to need this right away. It'll be a while into the process here before we need that. But if you're doing this, right off the bat with like a fresh kill, it's going to be a little bit of a different process right in the beginning because, like I said, the skulls that I have been sitting out in the woodshed for a while, so they're the remaining skin and meat, hair, whatever that was left on them has kind of decayed off over the past couple of years. But I've done them right off the deer before. There's a couple different ways you can do it. If you have the stomach for it, which I know a lot of people don't, you just skin them out right away, which is usually the easiest thing to do. The more material you can get off the skull before you throw it in the pot for the boiling process, the better. The less time it's going to take in the long run. But I have done it before where I've just taken the head with everything left on it and just tossed it in the pot, and obviously the boiling softens everything up and it's a little bit easier to get off of there. But if you have a weak stomach, it probably isn't something that you're going to want to watch or do. And I mean, totally respectable if you're one of those people. I mean, like I said, it's not for everybody, but some people don't want to just for a Euro mount, don't want to go spend whatever your local taxidermist charges to do it. I mean, for me, I think I've paid in the past right around like $150 or $200 to get a decent one. And I mean, to be honest, something that you're going to get from a taxidermist is going to be a little bit higher quality than what you're going to get doing it yourself. But the more you do, the better you're going to get at it. And there's always the satisfying feeling of just being able to do something like that yourself. So yeah, so like I said, the things that you need, you really don't need a whole lot to do this. You just get an old stock pot that's big enough to fit a skull into, or the majority of a skull anyway. And you don't want to be using something that you're gonna go cook spaghetti in when you're done with it. I mean, have a dedicated pot for this process for obvious reasons. So and then you need a heat source. You can do this over a fire if you want to. Nothing wrong doing that. You can use any sort of an electric hot plate burner, anything that's going to bring your water up to a boiling temperature. Back when I was in school, I just kind of, the old Coleman stoves always hit my hot button, so every time I saw one of those, I'd snap one up. So I've got an abundance of these things laying around, and this is just the one that I've been using for years to do this. So got this all fueled up, good to go. Yeah, so I mean, this is going to be the first step in the process here, is just if you've got your head with all of the skin and the meat and everything left on it, you're going to want to skin that out and try and get as much of that material off of there as possible. But again, in my case, my skulls have been sitting out in the weather for a while, so they're the natural decay has done a lot of the work for me. But let's go get this set up, and we'll fill our pot here with water and get the skull. Get it boiling. I mean, that's going to take some time, so might as well get started. Alright, it's been about, geez, probably 2 or 3 years since I've used this this particular stove, so hopefully it's up to the task. We'll see if I can get it lit here. Much easier than I thought it was going to. Here's what we're working with as far as the skull goes. Hopefully you guys can see that. Yeah, so as you can see, pretty nasty. Definitely needs some attention. So we're gonna hopefully try and get that all cleaned up and see what we can do with it. Some time there, let that heat up for probably the next couple of hours, and just let the boiling process do its job. And we'll check back in with you once we're at the next step. Well, that's been boiling out there for quite a while now. I think I'm gonna just grab it out of the pot, and I'll spare you guys the gruesome parts. Hopefully that'll prevent this video from getting taken down. So all I'm going to do is just grab it out of the pot, walk it back over to my garden hose there. There's, like I said, it's been sitting out in the woodshed for so long that most of the natural decay process has got most of the material, whatever, off of the skull already. So there's not much left on there. So I'm going to be using probably just a putty knife and a toothbrush to kind of get it cleaned up. Once I get the majority of all the what's left on the skull, I'll probably bring it into here with just a bucket of soapy water, and then we'll clean it, you know, get everything out of the cracks and crevices as good as we can, and then go forward from there. But it's looking like they normally do, so I mean most of whatever was left in there that the bugs hadn't already taken care of should just peel right off now, so we should be good to go. There you can see there, Coleman stove is still going strong. Man, it is getting windy out here. Got a halfway decent boil going there, kind of just a slow boil, but that's lifting up all the fat and grease and everything else that was left on the skull, so it should clean up pretty easy now. So that'll be the next step. All right, let's get this thing cleaned up. So you can see there that it came pretty clean. After just that short boil. I don't think I boiled it for more than probably 2 hours, and to be honest, it didn't even need that long. But you can see too how yellow it is. I mean, over time, that's just what happens if you don't do anything with them right away, just from all of the fat. All right, so as I was talking away over there, I didn't realize it, but my camera card filled up, so got that all switched out now, and I was kind of just rambling as always, but I was saying that one thing that could happen when you're doing this is that the nasal bones like to pop out, but you know, like any other skull, it's just one giant puzzle piece, and I mean, as long as you didn't break it, you know, like actually snap it in half or something like that, you can kind of just figure out how these go together and push them right back in there. It's just a matter of finding the right angle. And I mean, it's really not too difficult to do. There we go. Yeah, just pretty much just like that. So I got this thing all cleaned up. I just went at it with some dish soap over there, toothbrush, and some simple green, some degreaser, just to get everything as clean as I possibly could. Tried to blow out all the cavities and everything like that with a garden hose. I was saying over there, I've seen some people use pressure washers. I wouldn't do that just because, like I said, these things are somewhat fragile. You can kind of blow them apart and have to try and piece them back together. But to each their own. If that's what works for you, great. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of dirt left in here that I could have probably gotten a little bit cleaner. But what I'm going to do is grab my dental picks real quick, and I can see there's a glob of hair stuck in there yet, so I'm going to try and get that out. I mean, that's the main idea here. You want to get these things as clean as you possibly can, just because, I mean, they're going in your house, right? So eventually, if you leave a bunch of stuff in there, it's probably gonna end up smelling kind of nasty, and you don't want that. So just kind of giving it a good look over here, make sure I didn't miss anything too bad. And it actually looks like it came pretty dang clean, so that's a good thing. So, like I said, I'll grab some footage of the previous skulls that I've done and throw it in this video. And this is, I've said it a million times already, but this is the first one that I've done using the peroxide cream developer. I picked up this bottle of it off Amazon for like $8, and that's probably enough to do multiple skulls. But we're going to apply that here in a second. And when you put that on, I mean, it's probably going to take several coats first of all, and you should leave it sit for several hours, and you'll be able to see the change take place over time. So it requires patience, which I don't have a whole lot of, so I'm just gonna, damn it, pop that out again. But I mean, you can glue these back in place too. Any bones that come out of it or anything like that, if you're that crazy about it, you can just glue them in place. But once you have them in there, they tend to stay as long as you're not continuously messing with it like I'm doing here right now. Hoping that this year I'll be able to shoot something actually a little bit bigger than this. I was a little bit trigger happy in my younger years. Still kind of am, but like I say, I'm kind of a meat hunter. I'm getting into that stage of life where I'm letting them walk, letting them get a little bit bigger, and if I'm looking for meat, I just try and take a doe or something like that. But you know, depending on where you're at, that's kind of a touchy subject with some people, whether you should shoot does or take out, you know, smaller bucks if you're looking for meat deer. But I mean, where I'm at, either one is fine. You know, there's definitely no shortage of does where I'm at, despite what the DNR thinks, at least on my property. I don't know, I mean, it could be different throughout the county, but yeah. So now that this is all dried off here, I'll put my nasal bone back in place one more time. I gotta grab my toothbrush there, and we'll get to applying the developer. So this is this, they just call it cream developer. It's like a beauty product used for women dyeing their hair, stuff like that, I guess. It's probably going to take multiple coats of this to whiten this up. Even on a brand new skull, or a fresh skull I should say, it takes multiple coats. So it will be interesting to see how this handles the older skull. So this is 40 volume, and like I said, I bought this off Amazon. I think it was like $8 or something like that. It says cream, and I mean it's a little bit watery. I was hoping a cream was going to be a little bit more creamy, for better lack of words, but we'll just do the best we can here. And I would try to avoid getting it on the antlers unless you're trying to lighten up the antlers, but I'm trying to leave those as dark as I can. And so you're just going to take the toothbrush here and just try and get it into all the nooks and crannies. And just try and get solid coverage all over the place. I'm not too sure how covered it has to be, but I think that looks pretty good to me for now. I'm sure as long as you have some sort of a barrier there that kind of helps keep everything contained, it'll be good. So yeah, we're gonna let that sit for probably, at least 12 hours. I'll come out and check it before I go to bed tonight, just out of curiosity. Like I said, my patience, I don't have much, so I'm going to be chomping at the bit to see what this looks like. But that's a good start for now, so we'll just leave it sit, and yeah, we'll come back and check on it in a little bit. Alright, it's about 24 hours later here. I've let this sit overnight, and you can tell it's done something. Like I said, I don't know if it's ever actually going to get to the point that it's that it's 100% white. If you were doing, like I said, I think I said this, when I was out here yesterday looking at it, if you were doing this with a fresh skull, it probably would turn out pretty well. You can see again down here on the nasal bones, these are actually lighter than the rest of it, but we're gonna, we'll keep going with it. You can see it's definitely lightening up quite a bit. So we'll just keep going with it and see what happens. Like I said, worst case scenario, I'll probably end up just doing this anyway, because like I said, I really don't think it's going to turn out, because it's yellowed so much over time. But we'll give it our best shot here. So let's go ahead and add another coat of the developer there, and see what happens. Well, we're back once again here. Again, this is the second coat, probably about 12 to 20 hours later, somewhere in there. And you can see it is, that second coat did quite a bit. It's definitely lightening up. Even some of the darker, real dark spots that I didn't think were gonna lighten up are getting whiter. So it's obviously working. It's working pretty well. It's working better than I expected. So I'm guessing it's probably going to take somewhere on the order of another 3 coats to get it to where I want it to be. But I'm okay with that. So I'm actually, yeah, I'm actually really impressed at how well this is working. I didn't expect it to lighten up this much, but yeah, let's keep going here. We'll give it another couple coats and see what happens. This is the first mount that I ever made doing it this way, or I should say just trying to do it by myself. And when I started doing this, I didn't know about the hydrogen peroxide cream, or the cream developer, whatever you want to call it. So I just went with the hydro dipping method, and I mean, you can see this one turned out pretty well. And this is the most recent one that I did, and this is also the smallest buck I've ever shot. I'm not gonna lie, when I shot it, I thought it was a doe. Took this one off the food plot, and it was kind of right at shooting light, and all I saw was a big-bodied deer, and it was kind of into the middle of October, and I just thought to myself, you know what, that one's going down. So dropped it and found out it was a little buck. So I decided to keep the skull and just do a little mount with it. But the base on this one is just white spray paint, just like a Rust-Oleum enamel, and then the hydro dipping, all I did was just use white and hammered copper, and this is probably one of my favorite ones. Absolutely love the way that this one turned out, and I think the other one that I've got out in the woodshed is probably going to end up being done like this. But we'll see how the current one turns out, if I can get it white enough with the developer. And I mean, this is the color, this is the white that I'm going for, the level of white that I want. Like as bright as possible, just to give that contrast between the antlers and the skull itself. So let's go look at the other couple that I have upstairs real quick. Well, it's about 3 days later now, and I think in total I've had 5 coats of the cream developer on the skull. And I mean, you can see there's some obvious changes, but I think parts of it are just a little too far gone. And I mean, they might eventually whiten up to a point that would look good, but there's just so much inconsistency in the colors all over the skull that I think I'm just going to go ahead and paint it. I mean, I know, like, you can see how much darker this side is. I mean, hopefully that shows up on camera. But you can see, there's just areas that are much darker than the rest of it, and it's not really getting any more uniform the more I apply. But you can see, like, this side looks pretty good. So, I mean, doing this in the future with a fresh skull, I think it's going to work great. But being that this one here is, gosh, probably already 6 years old, and it's just been sitting around for so long, I don't think it's going to turn out the way that I want it to. And I mean, the developer is obviously working. I mean, you can see how white the teeth are, especially, and I mean, other areas of this skull, if we go back and look at what we started with, it's obviously making quite a difference. But I think we're just going to go ahead and paint it and then hydro dip it. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and move forward with the hydro dipping on this one. The other skull that I have out in the woodshed, I think we're going to try something a little bit different with that one in a different video. I saw something recently where a guy grew borax crystals on the skull, and that looked, I mean, it definitely looked interesting. So I think I want to give that a try with the other one. But this one, we're going to go ahead and just now paint it white, and then we'll hydro dip it. Haven't decided what colors yet, but we'll pick something out and go from there. So, all right. So I'm just going to tape off the antlers here with electrical tape. I like to use electrical tape for this part because you can pull it real tight, stretch it around the base of the antler, and really get it to kind of curl underneath there, and cover everything that you want it to cover, and leave everything exposed that needs to be exposed. But, I mean, theoretically you can use whatever kind of tape you want. And this is just what works best for me. Alright, that should be taped off plenty good enough, so we'll go grab some paint and get it done. So I've changed my mind about 6 dozen times as to what I'm going to do with this, but I think I finally arrived at the conclusion that I'm going to leave it just pure white. That was the whole purpose of trying the developer and everything. I wanted to get another skull like the professionally done one on my living room wall that I showed you guys earlier, another just pure white one. And since I couldn't quite achieve it with the developer, I'm just going to go with this flat white paint. It's just Krylon flat white spray paint. It ended up looking kind of chalky, so it does look like it's just been left out in the sun for years. You know, I actually think I've done it with, this is the first time I've done it with a flat paint instead of a gloss, and the flat definitely looks a lot better than the gloss. The gloss just makes it look a little too unnatural. But granted, the hydro dipped ones that I have don't look natural at all. I mean, it looks like you set a 5-year-old loose with a box of crayons, but anyway, yeah, long story short, we're going to go with more of a natural look on this one. So this is probably as far as I'm going to take it, and this will be the end result. And probably cut this video off here after I get the tape ripped off and show you guys the final result. And then in part 2, we're going to make the wall plate for it. I have a couple different ideas in mind for that, and I'm going to do something that I haven't done before. I like to change things up as much as I can, as often as I can, so keep the decorations unique, I guess. And there you have it. Certainly not perfect. You know, like I said a million times, not the same quality that you're going to get from a taxidermist, but I mean, this was essentially free. All it costs you is your time, and I don't know, I think it looks damn good. Opinions are going to vary, obviously, but it is what it is. So that's that. Thanks for watching, and I guess hopefully we'll see you in part 2 when we finish the project.